security is such an important part of our discussion. So important that we must be able to impress you that our ideas on security can work. Else, you vote anybody in and the killings continue and the kidnappings continues and the massacre in our rural communities and in our farms continues. We've had a governor for the past 7 years, and very recently the party chairman of the ruling governor was kidnapped, was abducted. It goes to show that the issues of security as far as Edo State goes still needs a lot of touch, and it needs, for me, a more sophisticated and more result-oriented approach. Insecurity just now is part of the reasons why you are having food shortage. Is part of the reasons why agricultural produce have become a good of some sorts. A rubber of Gari now, I'm told, is selling between 4,500 to 5,000. A rubber of Gari, and there's somebody somewhere who has 6 children. They'll just make it by once, and that is gone. And so it's a serious issue, and that's why we must be able to tell Edo people why they should give us the opportunity to serve. For us, security is going to take a more modern approach. It's going to take a more sophisticated approach. It's going to take a very detailed approach. Much as we're still going to rely on boots on the ground, but we're bringing in lots of creative concepts on security. I mean, if the guys who are perpetuating insecurity in their misdeeds will keep evolving on how they're going to perpetrate their crimes and get away with it, I mean, it's only fair that those who are leading should get ahead of them, should be more proactive than them, should project crime ahead of the criminals. And so, on security, something happened, something that we intend to leverage on. Some years ago, I built a software. Mind you, I'm not a software engineer, but I know how to bring things from my mind and put them into programs and get those who are much more better than me in coding to bring them into work and solve problems. So some years ago, I had a security architecture that I had, drawn out the organogram on my paper, and I visited. I had a friend then, Dr. Carl Oshodi Isibo. He's on Facebook as Dr. Carl Oshodi, so you can ask him. So I discussed with Dr. Carl Oshodi Isibo as at 2011 that the security challenge of Edo State was going to get worse because Edo is a transit state. I mean, from Edo you can get to the north, from Edo you can get to the west, and from Edo you can get to the east. So Edo is a passageway. So I told him that we need to get more proactive with our security. We need to have a data management of those who come into the state, and we need to have sort of things and that and that. And he was like, okay. And so having listened to the idea that I was proposing, he had tried to sort a meeting between myself and the late Alame Sega, of Bayelsa State. And then we're also making some moves to reach out to Chief Lucky Gideon. Then he just finished his tenure as governor. And so on security, here's my proposal, and it's subject to your ratification. And so I did a design. So I tested it, and it worked. To the extent that a sitting senator was offering me 10 million naira to patent it and own the rights for me. Now, I projected on how we can actually solve the insecurity problems in our homes, our streets, then our rural communities for the sake of our farmers. And so I built a Panic app. It's just the same way you will just take your phone and just press WhatsApp and the app opens. It's the same way I built an application that has a hardware component attached to it. So in the application that I built, when you notice Maybe your dogs are barking, your neighbor dogs are barking, or maybe anything at all just wakes you up and you know before the crime is perpetrated. Maybe the armed robbers are trying to break in, maybe, just about before it happens. So instead of doing the only thing available to you, which is panicking, and of course, if you call the police, if you call the vigilante, they will take a long time to respond. That's if they respond. And the roads in your streets are not good. So even if they're going to respond, the crime may have been committed before they will eventually respond. Now, I have to do this in reaction to what I suffered. I suffered emotional trauma and psychological trauma when armed robbers just invaded and came into our bedroom. Light down there, turn your eyes, and just like that. And my thoughts were simple. How about if one of them just go crazy now and just shoots? And myself and my siblings, my mother, were all in the same house. So they locked us in one room where they were operating and trying to ransack the entire house. And they took my poor mother away. You could hear her crying, please, oh, I beg you, make una not touching up my children. No worry, I'm not going to bring this thing come. Where I lied down, I was just thinking, like, wow, this is going on in virtually some other locations, some other places, And that's because those who perpetrate crime know that our state is porous in terms of the security layout. And so, after that incident, I built a panic button app and I connected with the hardware. Now, here's what happened. The moment, this alarm blaring system that you put in your homes when NEPA brings light or BDC brings light, it blares, or when your bowl gets filled, it blares to notify you. So I connected the app from a phone to the hardware. Now, here's how it works. If I notice dogs barking or someone trying to break into my house, for example, because like the operations that they did in the house, they broke the wall and came inside to meet us, If you notice such a thing, so you just tap the panic button on the app. The moment you tap the panic button on that app, it does two things simultaneously. It's a computer program, so it doesn't need power to put this on here. And we had used solar powered system because we can't rely on our light system. So the moment you press that panic button, like you just tap the button, immediately the system will transmit automated response call to 10 phone numbers that you had given to us if we're to run it as a private security company, for example. So it sends 10 phone numbers. It says, trouble in Paul's house, please call for help. Now, assuming it happens at night when people are sleeping and all of that, somebody may not be able to call for help immediately. But the goal is that some persons are already aware that there's something happening in your house, so emergency response could be called in by other persons. But immediately you tap that button, as it's sending the SMS, it triggers the alarm in your house. The next you hear this in your house. Now, the assailant is worried. You ask yourself, if you were to be a criminal trying to bust a man in his house at that hour, and then automatically the alarm system start blaring, you'll be concerned as to somebody else could wake up. But we didn't stop there. I told the guys who were helping me to stretch the application, then Matthew and Kenny. I told them, Matthew, I think he's in London now, yeah. I told Matthew, connect this hardware that is making noise through the system to another hardware that will make corresponding noise. So we mounted other houses in my mother's street. So the alarm triggered my mother's house, triggered the next house, triggered the next house. So all the houses will start blaring. I want you to ask yourself a question. When such blaring starts from house to house, if you were to be the armed robber, I'm not saying you're an armed robber, would you still acquire the equanimity of operations like nobody cares, nobody's aware? No. Naturally, you begin to scamper for safety as well. Now, in our thoughts that in case you don't scamper for safety, that same automation went to the Nigerian Police Force, went to the local vigilante center attached to your area, if there is one. Then it also triggers a firefighter in case it's Harmattan season fire related. It also triggers ambulances for emergency response and primary health care centers if you have ambulances located to them, something we intend to do. I'll discuss that when we're discussing about the health package. And so the moment that happens, the assailant is obviously restless. But at that same moment, I proposed my thoughts that there should be basements or houses in this state that security men and women are manning, and it's of course not a known security location, very private locations across the 18 local governments. Now, immediately that happens, the application also triggers the security program, the people there. So it shows that there is trouble in a particular location, and because it's GPS connected, of course, you book a ride these days and it takes you to the address. It tells you turn left, turn right. So we're able to connect through the phone system. We also did it such that it triggers a drone. So we propose to have fast moving drones on top the roofs of high buildings in the 18 local governments. So if we have 2 drones landed on top your roof, assuming you have a 3 or 4 story or just a story building, you will not even know. But it's a state project, it's landing there. From there, it triggers it, so the drone moves. The drone, within a space of, depending on the speed and distance, but we factor between 10 to 30 seconds, or worst case scenario, 1 minute 40 seconds was our projection, depending on how we lay and place the drones and the speed of the drones. So the drones go immediately because the panic button triggered the GPS. The GPS knows the compound because we have registered, in my thought, every house on a database, on a security program to that security architecture. Now, the moment that happens, the drone goes at the same time. So the drone is actually doing area surveillance from the roof, from the air. It's surveying the environment. I haven't gotten to that particular compound where the drone was, where it was triggered. The people manning our projected screens from the drone, they are watching, so they are giving real-time information to the vigilante. Like, okay, we've seen the person is running down this street. So the drone is actually following the person. So it also gives real-time communication to the local vigilante. Okay, the person is at a certain location, so you don't go fall into an ambush, get the person through. So we built it like that. We tested it, it worked. And the moment that happens, another thing that came to my mind, which of course needed, approvals, is to have the drones weaponized. So a drone could be chasing you or locating you. It could maintain an altitude where you can't even jump to touch it, but from that altitude it could shoot a tranquilizer if it has a spring system that shoots. It could shoot. There are drones built for that purpose anyway. It could shoot like a military drone. It could shoot a tranquilizer, and the tranquilizer just goes. The moment it gets to you and gets into you, it immobilizes you. One way or another, you wait there to be picked like a snail. Now the question I want to ask is this: if we do this, we have not shot a gun, no life has been lost, but however, we have secured the neighborhood. So our plan is to have the solar-powered version of these things running in the 18 local governments. And when this is operational, we can have real-time follow-up on crime. And so after I built this, 2 years ago, I built this project about 12 years ago. And so 2 years ago, I reached out to Matthew and Kenny. They were the brains that I used to develop it further. And as I speak, Matthew Osetoame, look for him, he's in London. You see his picture, quite the handsome guy. 2 years ago, we reviewed the model of that security application. Now, the security application can map hot zones, can tell you where crime is possibly going to happen, depending on the nature of people that are sized in movement. The security architecture now can show you red spots, and it tells you something is most likely going to go down in this location. So you can get ahead of crime. Now, imagine the agony a parent goes through or will go through when the child is just wasted. I watched a video on social media one time where they chased the boy, chase. I think it was a fraternal issue. Chase, and eventually he just couldn't run anymore. Some people were filming from a story building and they just killed him there. Such helplessness will no longer happen because we have drones that are monitoring. We have drones that could take the place of human effort to make security very quick and very lucid. That aside, I propose also that by God's grace, if we become governor and by the collective will of the people, I intend to push a bill to the House of Assembly to legislate that every house should have a solar-powered CCTV camera in their houses. You could have 2. You could have at the front of your gate that watches your street as well. But the goal is this: we want to have that portal getting more feeds and reports of possible crime or crimes. Now, Well, I don't have the statistics because this government, this administration is, for me, shrouded in secrecy. You don't know what they are doing. You don't know how they are doing what they are doing. There is no public document for anybody to really engage with. But it is gloated that Edo State government uses 900 million for our security votes every month. Now imagine, for example, even if it's 2 naira you're using as security votes, let's assume that you're using 2 naira, but we know it's really big sum. That's how governors actually fleet the people's money anyway. Now imagine if you legislate that every house should have a camera in their streets. So major streets are going to have cameras, and then inner streets are also going to have solar powered cameras as well. If your camera catches or reports a crime, you have an entitlement from the security votes. That way, we are all participating in security, and there are compensations for having a security architecture in your property that has given the state more reasons to solve easier access, possibility of solving crime or even curbing crime. But just imagine for a second that, let's assume a long stretch of road. Let's say all the houses have cameras in them. Do you think any kidnapper will just drive in knowing that a camera spot is going to identify him or her soon? So that's one of the advantages that addition to security device architecture is going to do for us. And do you think armed robbers will just wake up and go and steal, knowing that they could very much be tailed by several cameras? And of course, drones are also following them, reporting them. You know, you're putting crime to a condition where either the criminals get more sophisticated because you had gone ahead of them. At the same time, I also propose that we should sequence the car plates of every registered vehicle in Edo State through the Board of Internal Revenue. We sequence all the car plates, put them in a digital platform, sequence them into codes, such that you will now have, along major roads, we could have metal detectors on our roads. What metal detectors will do for you is that if you drive past, let's assume, a major road in Ekboma, for example, and you had not renewed your car plates or car particulars, the metal detector will detect it. It will send an SMS prompt to the authorities responsible for your check, so they know that this vehicle is already in violation. But here's another beautiful thing it does. You just can't bring a vehicle into Edo State to commit a crime and get out of Edo State. Because much as our cameras are following you, the metal detectors was the first to flag you off that this plate is not registered to Edo State. And as such, any plate that comes into Edo that is not registered into Edo State will be followed till the plate leaves Edo. Men on boots, this current security, we'll call it ASN, Edo Security Network, will be trained better, more sophisticated. In fact, they will be laying ambush and waiting for such a vehicle. Such vehicle will be searched down to the spoke. They will search such vehicle because there is a flag up from our metal detectors that you are not a registered vehicle into Edo State. Why do you think criminals will come into Edo State with vehicles to come and perpetrate crime when all of these could just simply get them without a gunshot fired? But like I said earlier, the beauty of the things that I think of is not just to solve problems, it's to create wealth. Imagine the employability strength from the tech guys. One, imagine the employability strength of those that will be running the architectural program of the security. Now imagine the employability strength of the boots on ground. And I propose to kit them up and make them look better than the Nigerian police. Because majesty, there's a reason why there are pillars, POP, the plaster of Paris or pillars, they conjure awe. When you see a security personnel, he or she should look fierce. I intend to give a robust kitting and equipment to this security network because the monies will be there. Now let me tell you how the money is going to come. Without depending on federal allocations from federal government, without depending on IGRO from tax collection, we can simply have an average of 1 to 2 trillion generated, which is 3 or 4 times the current size of our current budget in Edo State. We can generate that from providing security. Bringing security in the face of insecurity. Now here's how it's going to happen. The applications that was built and the drone monitoring and the triggering can be run under a public-private partnership structure with government. The government gets good sum, the private investors get good sum. Like I said, our directorates have investors who will select from there and also bring in. So everybody's participating in government, whether you like it or not. Now, as a young governor, if I find myself in the midst of other governors, of course I can reach out to other governors. There is no governor who would not want such security program running in his or her state, especially when they are not going to spend money. They're not going to spend money. All they need is just legislate in the house security bill. And we're not taking too much. 1,000 naira monthly. If you take 1,000 naira monthly from a 5-bedroom duplex or bungalow, at the end of 12 months, that property is charged 12,000 naira for security. Small money. Something that most of us spend at once on data. Then, if you were to charge 1,000 naira for a 10-room apartment filled with the masses, you're going to be charging 100 naira from each person monthly. And then if it is 20 rooms, like some cases we have hostels, you're going to be charging 250 naira monthly. If it's a 4-bedroom flat apartment, you're going to be charging each flat 250 naira monthly. If it is 2-bedroom flat apartment, you're going to be charging 500 monthly. But here's the beautiful thing. If you have this application running in 2 million homes, multiply 2 million homes by 1,000 naira, then by 12, you will see the revenue that's coming into Edo State. Remind you, from agriculture, we say we're bringing money into Edo State. We're causing internal productivity and revolution already, economic revolution already. From education, we also discussed how we intend to use education to mop inwards, increasing the GDP and causing internal revolution, economic revolution, and productivity within Edo State. Now, on security, the 36 states have security challenges. If we profile this solution, it will be cutting edge and will be mopping serious revenue into Edo State coffers. But mind you, when you build such security network for people to come into a security platform, the wisest thing to do is to turn it into a social media platform as well. Wherein the state now also has a social media platform, wherein you can also now digitalize advertorial. Why should we keep making Mark Zuckerberg a billionaire per second when we can simply leverage on the Nigerian population alone? Imagine if the Nigerian population, courtesy education that we're providing solutions to, were to be in a platform, users get into a platform, on security, users get into a platform, on agriculture, users get into the same platform. The next thing is to digitalize advertorial. So instead of government to be bothered about generating revenues for local government through billboards, which is an old, obsolete means, which is of course still viable, government can simply be making much as Mark Zuckerberg is making. Mark Zuckerberg, I think, is richer than our states. So we can actually make so much wealth. Now, also imagine the amount of what you generate as profits from downloads. For whatever you place on the Play Store, when you download, you make profits on it as well. Imagine 2 million homes having to probably renew applications, change into new version. So it means for life, the projects we have discussed just now, both agriculture, education, and security, have the tendency of outliving every single one of us. That is what I describe as real empowerment. That's what I call financial infrastructure. Like I said, Peter Obi earned our trust in the 2023 presidential election, not with the proof of the economic bounce that happened under his administration, and of course the ripple effect till now. Anambra is not the richest state in Nigeria, but Peter Obi earned our trust because there was this silent proof that he was capable, he was less corrupt, he could do more of these. And of course, it gave people like me the body language like more micro Bs would now be showing interest in our leadership process. Mind you, when you keep showing apathy to the leadership process, when you keep saying, I won't vote, or count the result, whatever, that's how you empower the wrong set of leaders. That's how they know how to remain in power. The election you rig is the one that is not miles apart. The one that is miles apart, even INEC cannot play prank. So if we are ready for this kind of economic, social, political ballot box revolution, if we are ready for this sort of economy where you are not afraid as you're graduating, well, the ball is on our court. So we have proven that our security approach is a very sophisticated and modern one. And then again, there'll be more trainings and kitting for the boots on ground. I don't know if the boots on ground currently are paid well or if they are paid at all, because I know these days they are doing deals for programs and all that. But if we generate so much, don't you see that our security men and women will be well paid? And this sort of thing also happens in the rural environment. They are well paid. They are running tech security. They are cumbering their bushes. Of course, you have kitted them well because there's money. Because the private investors that are coming are going to come in on the basis of these conditions to make it bigger and better. And so we can leverage on common wisdom that is actually not so common to secure our place. Securing Edo is sacrosanct if the agricultural program is going to work. So if the agricultural program is going to work, the farmer doesn't need to be afraid of going to his farm. So if you really capture the picture of what I'm saying now, please let me tell that person sitting beside you who perhaps doesn't understand much of this sort of eclectic discussion in the language that he or she understands, that a secure Edo is possible if we have Paul Okonkwo as government.